So this lesson, let's start using our file service right here. Now the first thing I had to change after I actually checked out this version right here was to actually add the file service as a provider. I forgot that in the shared modules, so just do that, get that out of the way. The other thing that I kind of changed was right now, as it is in this version right here, I actually allowed you to listen. The ones using the folder details, they can listen for click events on files. But the file container, the column right here, and the container, they do not provide that service. So I just added a file clicked in the HTML for the column, and I also added an event emitter just like I did for, it's exactly the same like I did for the folder earlier, so nothing new there. I also did the same thing for the file system right here. I added the click event inside the HTML, and I also added the output right here so that people from the outside can listen for this new file click right here. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time there because I already did in an earlier video. But right here I can now start using this by adding a clicked file, and then I can say file clicked, right? It's just the same like we did with the folder, and let's just add an event right here. There we go. So now we need this function, of course, so I'm just going to put that inside my TypeScript code, so we can now start listening for when we click files actually, instead of folders. There we go. And that's going to be just a file of the type file. Now I just noticed something up here as well. Let's just put in folder here just to explain that this is actually the type folder in the folder clicked. Now there's one more thing, because when I actually add this, you have to remember that it's actually this type of file, not the ECMAScript one. So again, remember to make that import right there, and there we go. Now we have the file clicked, and let's just for now just do a console log just to actually see that this works. So just put in file right here. Let's see if it happens. See, when I click this, I should now get an event. Click, click, there we go. Now we have the unique ID for that file that we just clicked, and we just need to use it. Now to do that, we need to now start using our folder service and the new one, the file service. So let's just use the file service now to actually start getting some information about our files. File service. There we go. Now with the file service, we can actually, of course, go in just like we did with the folder service. We can now start getting those informations from Firestore about the file, those that we're looking for, right? So with the file service, we'll say get file, and we'll say file.uniqueID, and from that we'll actually hopefully get back some file, right? So we use the first keyword again, and from that point we'll go in and we'll say subscribe and get back some kind of file right here. I'll just call it file.db because I already used the name file right here, so I'll call this file.db. Also, another thing, I want to make a check, right? I want to say if there's a file. Remember that, or else you'll get the exception that I had earlier if you don't select the file. But in this case, you're not able to not select the file, so this might be overkill, but who cares? I'm putting it in here anyway. You can't stop me because this is my code. Sweet. So now we are getting back a file, hopefully, and we can use that file to actually create a column, a file column, not a folder column, but a file column. Let's try and do that. I'll go in here and I'll just add a file column like this. There we go. And that'll be a file column. And then we can actually push that file column. But a file column needs something else. It needs the file.db's name, but that's called display name in the database. And it needs the actual file itself, the file column. And that's just going to be the file from the database. And it needs one more thing, and that's a URL. Now right now I'm not going to set up the URL for now. I'm just going to hardcode a URL for this lesson. And I just found a pretty picture of Johnny Depp right here, so that's the one I'm going to use. Copy image address. Let's just try and go in here. I think this is a page that actually talks about Angular and how crazy you get sometimes when you're trying to use Angular. I'm just trying to use the image, so I'll delete this in a second, so I don't think I'm violating anything, but if I am, I'll just remove it from the video. Sorry about that if that's the case. I just want to kind of have a link for some kind of picture for now when I'm actually showing this guy. So let's just try and click an image now, and hopefully, there we go, now we have the picture. I can click again. Now you'll notice it pops up with a new one because we have the same issue right now like we did with the columns. We don't clean up when we get new IDs, right? So we need to, when we click an image, we need to go back to the current column and then add that image, right? So there's something there again we need to figure out somehow. Sweet, but now we can actually keep adding these images if we want to, and yeah, that's all for this lesson. See you next time, have fun.